My relatives mocked my career direction until long-term income and stability followed. Then one thoughtful financial boundary turned their doubt into quiet reflection and changed family dynamics. "So, when are you getting a real job?" My uncle's voice cut through the Christmas dinner chatter like a knife through butter. Everyone at the table went quiet. I looked up from my plate, fork halfway to my mouth, and met his eyes across the turkey and stuffing. "I have a real job, Uncle Derek." He laughed, this sharp bark that made my jaw clench. "Playing with computers in your bedroom isn't a job, kid. It's a hobby." My Aunt Patricia nodded, dabbing at her lips with a napkin. "Your cousin Brandon just made partner at his law firm. Now that's a career." Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. I'm 28, single, and I've been working as a freelance software developer and consultant for the past 4 years. I live in a modest 2-bedroom apartment in the city, paid for entirely by my hobby. This wasn't the first time my family had taken shots at my career choices. "I'm actually doing pretty well," I said, keeping my voice level. My dad cleared his throat from the head of the table. "Well, you know how it is. Your mother and I just worry about your future. Stability, benefits, retirement." Mom reached over and patted my hand. "We just want what's best for you, honey." I pulled my hand back gently. "I appreciate that. But I'm stable. I have health insurance. I'm maxing out my retirement accounts." Uncle Derek snorted. "For now, maybe. But what happens when the work dries up? When companies stop needing whatever it is you do?" My cousin Brandon, the golden child lawyer, smirked from across the table. "Tech is volatile, man. One day you're in, the next day you're obsolete. At least in law, there's always going to be litigation." His wife Angela nodded enthusiastically. "Brandon's firm just bought him a new BMW. Company car. That's the kind of security we're talking about." I took a long drink of water. "That's great for Brandon." "Don't be defensive," Aunt Patricia said, her voice dripping with false concern. "We're family. We're allowed to be honest with each other." Grandma Helen, who'd been quietly eating her mashed potatoes, finally spoke up. "Leave the boy alone. He's doing fine." But Uncle Derek wasn't finished. "Mom, he's almost 30. He should be thinking about marriage, kids, buying a house. How's he going to do any of that without a stable income?" "I have a stable income," I repeated, but my voice was tighter now. My younger sister Melissa caught my eye from down the table and gave me a sympathetic look. She was the only one who actually understood what I did. "How much do you even make?" Brandon asked, leaning back in his chair like he was cross-examining a witness. The table went silent again. "That's personal," I said. "See? Can't even answer a simple question." Uncle Derek shook his head. "If you made good money, you'd say so." My dad intervened. "Derek, that's enough. Let's just enjoy dinner." But the damage was done. I could feel everyone's eyes on me, their judgment thick in the air. I finished eating as quickly as I could and left early, making up an excuse about an early morning client call. On the drive home, my phone buzzed with a text from Melissa. "Sorry about them. They're idiots. You're doing amazing." I appreciated it, but it didn't make the sting go away. This had been going on for years. Ever since I'd quit my corporate IT job to go freelance, my family had treated me like I'd lost my mind. They didn't understand that I'd been miserable in that job, working 80-hour weeks for a company that saw me as disposable. They didn't understand that I'd built something real, something sustainable. They only saw what they wanted to see. A kid playing on computers. Over the next few months, things only got worse. Every family gathering became another opportunity for my relatives to question my choices. "Still doing the computer thing?" Uncle Derek would ask, like I was going through a phase. "Have you thought about going back to school? Getting an MBA?" my dad would suggest. "You know, my friend's son works for Google. Maybe I could get you an interview," Aunt Patricia offered, as if working for myself was somehow less legitimate than working for a tech giant. The thing was, I was doing better than fine. I was thriving. My client list had grown to include 3 Fortune 500 companies and a dozen smaller businesses. I developed a specialty in cybersecurity consulting, and the demand was insane. I was billing out at $250 an hour, and I was booked solid for the next 6 months. I'd recently paid off my student loans in full. I'd bought a new car, nothing flashy, but reliable and fully paid for. I'd started investing heavily in index funds and had built up a 6-month emergency fund. But I didn't tell my family any of this. What was the point? They'd already made up their minds about who I was and what I was doing. Then my cousin Brandon announced his engagement. The family group chat exploded with congratulations and excitement. I sent my congratulations too, genuinely happy for him despite his condescending attitude toward me. A week later, my mom called. "Did you hear about Brandon's engagement party?" "Yeah, sounds great." "Well, they're having it at that fancy country club, the one with the golf course." I waited, sensing where this was going. "Your father and I were thinking, it would be nice if you contributed to the family gift. We're all chipping in for their down payment on a house." I paused. "How much are we talking?" "Well, Uncle Derek and Aunt Patricia are putting in 10,000. Your father and I are doing 5,000. We thought you could do 2 or 3,000. I nearly choked. $2 or $3,000? I know it sounds like a lot, but it's family. Brandon and Angela are just starting out. I rubbed my temples. "Mom, Brandon makes over $200,000 a year as a partner. But they have law school loans. And Angela's student debt. They need help. And you think I should give them $3,000? Her voice got that edge it always got when she was trying to guilt me into something. "Well, if you can afford it. I know money might be tight for you." There it was. The assumption that I was broke, struggling, barely scraping by. "Let me think about it," I said. "Don't think too long. We need to know for the planning." After we hung up, I sat in my apartment, staring at my laptop screen. I pulled up my bank accounts, my investment portfolio, my business finances. I'd had a very good year. Actually, I'd had a very good 4 years. My net worth had just crossed $400,000. I was 38 months ahead on retirement savings for my age. I owned my car outright. I had zero debt. And my family thought I needed to scrape together $3,000 for my cousin, who made $250,000 a year. The irony was suffocating. I called Melissa. "Hey, did Mom hit you up for the Brandon House Fund too?" She groaned. "Yes." I told her I'd put in 500. "That's all I can afford on a teacher's salary. What do you think I should do?" Melissa was quiet for a moment. "Honestly, I think you should tell them the truth. Show them your finances. Prove you're doing well. They won't believe me, or they'll find some way to diminish it. Then don't give them anything. Set a boundary." But setting boundaries with my family had never been easy. They'd always steamrolled over my attempts to establish independence. When I'd quit my corporate job, they'd called it a mistake for months. When I'd moved out of my parents' house at 24, they'd acted like I was abandoning them. When I'd declined to go on the family vacation because I had work commitments, they'd given me the silent treatment for weeks. The engagement party arrived. I showed up in a nice suit, bringing a card with a $500 check. Not the 2 or 3,000 my mom had suggested, but more than generous for someone who'd never believed in me. Uncle Derek found me at the bar. "So, did you chip in for the house fund?" "I gave what I could," I said neutrally. He raised his eyebrows. "Your parents mentioned you might do $3,000. Angela's parents are putting in 15,000, you know. Good for them. Come on, kid. Family helps family. Brandon would do the same for you." I doubted that, but I didn't say anything. Brandon himself approached, looking smug in his tailored suit. "Hey man, thanks for coming. Congratulations. You and Angela seem really happy." "We are. Can't wait to get into our new place. With everyone's help, we'll have a solid down payment." "Your parents said you're contributing." I gave what I thought was appropriate. His smile faltered slightly. "Oh, okay. Well, every bit helps, I guess." The condescension in his voice made my blood boil. Here was a guy who'd mocked my career for years, who'd questioned my stability and my choices, now acting like my contribution was some kind of charity case helping out. I excused myself and found Melissa on the patio. "This is unbearable," I muttered. "Just smile and nod. It'll be over soon." But it wasn't over. Later that evening, during the toasts, Uncle Derek got up with a microphone. He thanked everyone for coming, praised Brandon's accomplishments, and then started talking about family values and supporting one another. "We're so grateful to everyone who contributed to Brandon and Angela's future," he said, his voice booming across the room. "Family takes care of family. That's what we do." Then he listed the contributors and their amounts. "My wife Patricia and I are proud to contribute $10,000. My brother Robert and sister-in-law are giving $5,000. Angela's parents are giving $15,000. He went on, naming relatives and their contributions. I waited for my name. "And we have several others who contributed what they could. Every dollar counts." He didn't mention my name. He'd lumped me in with several others, like I'd thrown in $20. I felt Melissa's hand on my arm. "Don't," she whispered. But something inside me snapped. Not in an explosive way. In a cold, clear, decisive way. I was done. I was done being treated like the family failure. I was done being dismissed and diminished. I was done hiding my success because it made them uncomfortable. The party wound down, and people started leaving. My parents caught me on the way out. Did you have a good time? Mom asked. It was fine. Dad looked uncomfortable. Listen, about the contribution. Derek mentioned you might have been a bit short on the amount. I stopped walking. I gave $500. That's more than generous. Mom's face fell. Oh honey, we talked about 2 or 3,000. You talked about it. I never agreed to it. But Brandon is family. So am I. Dad frowned. What's that supposed to mean? I took a breath, choosing my words carefully. It means I'm tired of being treated like I'm broke or struggling when I'm not. We don't think you're broke, Mom said, but her voice lacked conviction. Yes, you do. You all do. You've spent 4 years questioning my career, my choices, my stability. You've made it clear you think I'm one step away from financial disaster. We're just concerned, Dad said. No, you're judgmental. There's a difference. Uncle Derek walked up, catching the tail end of the conversation. Everything okay here? Fine, I said shortly. I hope there's no hard feelings about the toast. I just wanted to recognize the major contributors. $500 wasn't major enough. He shrugged. In the context of what others gave? Not really. But like I said, every bit helps. That was it. The final straw. You want to know the truth? I said, my voice steady and cold. I could have written a check for $20,000 and not noticed it missing from my account. Everyone stared at me. But I didn't. Because Brandon has never respected me or my career. Neither have you. None of you have. Uncle Derek's face reddened. Now wait a minute. No, you wait. For 4 years, you've all acted like I'm a failure. Like I'm wasting my life. Like I'm one client away from being homeless. Mom reached for my arm. Sweetie, we never said that. You didn't have to. It's in every question, every comment, every helpful suggestion that I get a real job. Brandon had walked over now, Angela on his arm. Dude, calm down. No one thinks you're a failure. Really? Then why do you ask me about getting a real job at every family dinner? He shifted uncomfortably. That's just conversation. No, it's condescension. It's judgment. And I'm done with it. Aunt Patricia joined the growing circle. You're being very dramatic. We're your family. We care about you. If you cared, you'd listen when I tell you I'm doing well. You'd believe me when I say I'm stable. Actions speak louder than words, Uncle Derek said. And your actions tonight showed you couldn't afford to help your cousin properly. I laughed, a harsh sound. You want actions? Fine. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. I turned the screen to show my checking account balance. $83,000. Just sitting there, liquid, accessible. Everyone's eyes widened. That's just my checking account, I continued. My business account has another $120,000. My investment accounts have just over $200,000. I own my car outright. I have zero debt. My net worth is over $400,000. The silence was deafening. I'm 28 years old, and I've built this in 4 years. While you all questioned and doubted and mocked. Mom's hand was over her mouth. Dad looked like he'd been slapped. Brandon's smug expression had completely vanished. So when I gave Brandon $500, it wasn't because that's all I could afford. It was because that's all I felt he deserved. Because he spent years making me feel small, and I don't reward that behavior. Uncle Derek found his voice. If you had that kind of money, why didn't you say something? Because I shouldn't have to. Because my worth isn't measured by my bank account. Because you should have respected me regardless of my income. I looked at each of them in turn. But since money is clearly the only language you understand, now you know. I'm not struggling. I'm not failing. I'm succeeding beyond what most people my age accomplish. Angela spoke up, her voice small. We didn't know. You didn't ask. You assumed. I put my phone away. I'm leaving now. Congratulations again on your engagement, Brandon. I genuinely hope you and Angela are happy together. I turned to go. Wait, my dad called out. Can we talk about this? I paused. What's there to talk about? We clearly made some mistakes. We should have been more supportive. Yes, you should have. Mom was crying now. I'm so sorry. We're so sorry. But I wasn't ready to accept apologies yet. The hurt ran too deep. I need some space, I said. I'll reach out when I'm ready. I walked to my car and drove home, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. I'd never confronted my family like that before. I'd never been that blunt, that cold, that honest. It felt terrible and liberating at the same time. The next few days were quiet. No calls, no texts from my parents or extended family. Just silence. Melissa checked in. Holy shit. You're a legend. The family group chat is losing its mind. What are they saying? Uncle Derek is defensive. Aunt Patricia is saying you were rude. Brandon is quiet. But Mom and Dad seemed genuinely shaken. I think they're realizing how badly they screwed up. Good. Are you okay? I don't know yet. The truth was, I felt empty. I'd proven my point, shown them the truth, set my boundary. But I'd also potentially blown up my relationship with my entire family. A week later, my dad called. I let it go to voicemail. He called again the next day, and the day after that. Finally, I answered. Hey, Dad. Can we meet? Your mother and I want to talk to you. Face to face. I hesitated. I don't know if I'm ready. Please, just give us an hour. I agreed to meet them at a coffee shop near my apartment. They were already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table. Mom's eyes were red, like she'd been crying recently. Dad looked older than I remembered, tired. I sat down across from them. Hi. Hi, honey, Mom said softly. We sat in awkward silence for a moment. Dad cleared his throat. Your mother and I have been doing a lot of thinking this past week. I waited. We owe you an apology. A real one. Mom nodded, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. We were wrong. About everything. About how we treated you, how we talked about your career, how we made assumptions. We thought we were helping, Dad continued. We thought we were showing concern. But we were just projecting our own fears onto you. I sipped my coffee, not sure what to say. When you quit your corporate job, we panicked, Mom said. We thought you were making a huge mistake. We didn't understand what you were doing or why. And instead of trusting you, we judged, Dad added. We compared you to Brandon, to other people's kids, to some imaginary standard we'd built up in our heads. We're sorry, Mom said, her voice breaking. We're so sorry. I felt something loosen in my chest. I needed to hear that. You should have heard it years ago, Dad said. We should have celebrated your courage. You took a risk, and you made it work. That's incredible. We're proud of you, Mom said. We should have said that every day. I felt tears prickling at my eyes. Thank you. Can you forgive us? Mom asked. I thought about it. Eventually. But things need to change. They will, Dad promised. We'll do better. We talked for another hour. They asked real questions about my work, my business, my plans for the future. They listened without judgment, without comparison. It felt like the first genuine conversation we'd had in years. When I left the coffee shop, I felt lighter. Not completely healed, but starting to mend. Over the next few weeks, other family members reached out. Some with apologies, others with excuses. Uncle Derek sent a stiff email acknowledging he'd perhaps been too harsh in his assessments. Aunt Patricia called and talked for 20 minutes about how proud she was, though it felt performative. Brandon sent a text. Hey man, I'm sorry for being a dick. I was jealous, honestly. You had the guts to do something I never could. Respect. I appreciated the honesty. Thanks. No hard feelings. We weren't close, probably never would be, but the hostility was gone. The real surprise came from Grandma Helen. She invited me over for lunch, just the two of us. We sat in her sunny kitchen, eating sandwiches and drinking lemonade. I always knew you'd be fine, she said, her eyes twinkling. You've got that quiet determination. Like your grandfather. I wish you'd said something. At those dinners. Would it have helped? Or would they have just dismissed me too? She had a point. Besides, she continued, some lessons people need to learn on their own. Your family needed to learn that respect isn't about job titles or salaries. It's about treating people with dignity. You think they learned it? I think you taught them. And that took more courage than any of them have ever shown. She squeezed my hand. I'm proud of you. I've always been proud of you. That meant more than any apology. Family gatherings became different after that. Less judgment, fewer comparisons. My dad started telling people about my work with genuine interest. Mom stopped suggesting I settle down and get a traditional job. Uncle Derek was polite but distant, his ego still bruised. But the dynamic had shifted. I was no longer the family project, the one who needed fixing. I was just me, doing my thing, successful in my own right. One evening, about 3 months after Brandon's engagement party, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Hello. Hi. Is this the cybersecurity consultant? Yes. Who's calling? This is Daniel Chun. I'm a partner at Brandon's firm. He gave me your number. We've had a security breach, and we need someone immediately. I smiled. Tell me about the situation. Brandon had recommended me. The cousin who'd mocked my career was now sending me business. I handled the firm's breach, implemented new security protocols, and ended up with a 6-month consulting contract worth over $100,000. When I ran into Brandon at a family dinner a few weeks later, he pulled me aside. Thanks for helping out the firm. You really saved our asses. That's what I do. I meant what I said in that text. I was jealous. You built something real. I'm just a cog in someone else's machine. You're a partner. Yeah, but it's not mine. You own your business. You control your time. You're actually free. I'd never thought of it that way, but he was right. It's not too late. You could do something different. He shook his head. Nah, I'm in too deep. Student loans, mortgage, Angela wants kids. I'm stuck. That sounds miserable. It is sometimes, but it's what I signed up for. He looked at me with something like regret. Don't let them make you feel small again. You've got something special. I won't. And I meant it. The financial boundary I'd set that night at the engagement party had changed everything. Not just with my family, but within myself. I'd stopped apologizing for my success. I'd stopped hiding my accomplishments to make others comfortable. I'd stopped seeking validation from people who'd never understand my journey. My business continued to grow. I hired my first employee, a young developer I mentored. I started speaking at conferences, sharing my expertise. I bought a condo, a real investment in my future. And through it all, my family watched with a mixture of pride and lingering shame. They'd learned an expensive lesson about assumptions and respect, about how easy it is to dismiss someone's path when it doesn't match your expectations, about how judgment can poison relationships and blind you to someone's accomplishments. 6 months after the confrontation, we had a family dinner at my new place. I cooked, something simple but good. Everyone came, even Uncle Derek and Aunt Patricia. As we sat around my dining table, my dad raised his glass. A toast to my son, who taught us that success isn't about following the traditional path. It's about having the courage to forge your own. Everyone drank. Mom was crying again, but happy tears this time. We're sorry it took us so long to see it, she said. What matters is you see it now, I replied. Uncle Derek cleared his throat. For what it's worth, I was wrong. About everything. You've built something impressive. It wasn't a warm apology, but it was something. I appreciate that. The evening went well. Easy conversation, genuine interest, no comparisons. Just family, being family. After everyone left, Melissa stayed behind to help clean up. You did it, she said, loading dishes into the dishwasher. Did what? Changed the whole family dynamic. Set a new standard. Showed them what respect looks like. I just got tired of being small. Well, you're not small anymore. You're kind of a legend now. I laughed. I'm just a guy who writes code and fixes security problems. No, you're the guy who stood up for himself, who set a boundary and stuck to it, who proved everyone wrong without being an asshole about it. I was kind of an asshole that night. You were honest. There's a difference. She hugged me. I'm proud of you. I've always been proud of you. Thanks, Mel. That means a lot. After she left, I sat on my balcony, looking out at the city lights. I thought about the journey I'd been on, the corporate job that nearly broke me, the leap into freelancing that terrified me, the years of building, learning, growing, the constant doubt from people who should have supported me, and finally, the moment I'd had enough, the moment I'd set a boundary and demanded respect. It hadn't been easy. There'd been pain, conflict, uncomfortable truths, but it had been necessary, because respect isn't given freely by people who don't understand your worth. Sometimes you have to show them. Sometimes you have to demand it. And sometimes you have to be willing to walk away if they won't give it. I'd been lucky. My family had eventually come around. They'd learned, grown, changed. But even if they hadn't, I would have been okay. Because I'd learned the most important lesson of all. My worth isn't determined by their opinion. My success isn't validated by their approval. My path is mine alone, and I don't need anyone's permission to walk it. The financial boundary I'd set wasn't really about money. It was about dignity, about refusing to be diminished, about standing tall in my truth, regardless of who believed in me. And that, more than any bank balance or client contract, was the real measure of success. I finished my drink and went inside. Tomorrow I had a meeting with a potential client, a Fortune 100 company looking for a complete security overhaul. The contract would be worth more than Brandon made in a year. I smiled at the irony, not because I wanted to compete with him or prove anything, but because 4 years ago, my family couldn't imagine I'd ever have a real job. Now they couldn't imagine how I'd built something so real, so successful, so entirely my own. Life has a funny way of teaching lessons. Sometimes you're the student, sometimes you're the teacher, and sometimes you're both at once. I taught my family about respect, about assumptions, about the danger of judging someone's path before you understand where it leads. And I'd learned that setting boundaries isn't selfish or cruel. It's self-preservation. It's dignity. It's the foundation of healthy relationships. The family dynamics had changed because I'd changed. I'd stopped accepting less than I deserved. I'd stopped making myself small to fit their expectations. I'd stopped apologizing for success they didn't understand. And in doing so, I'd given them the opportunity to grow, to change, to become better versions of themselves. Not everyone had taken it. Some family members still kept their distance, uncomfortable with the new dynamic. But most had risen to the occasion. They'd learned to ask instead of assume, to support instead of judge, to celebrate instead of diminish. And that was worth more than any amount of money I could have contributed to Brandon's down payment. Because it meant I could finally be myself around the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. It meant I could show up to family dinners without armor. It meant I could share my wins without fear of backlash or belittlement. It meant I was finally, truly seen. As I got ready for bed that night, I checked my phone one last time. A text from my dad. "Thank you for dinner. Your mother and I are so proud of you. Not because of your success, but because of who you are. We love you." I read it twice, feeling something warm settle in my chest. "Love you too, Dad." It had taken years, a confrontation, and one very firm boundary to get here. But we'd made it. And that was enough.